The Lunduk Journal has received leaks from a confidential whistleblower within Microsoft that show a concerted effort to gender transition children as young as 3. This is a very difficult topic. This is a very political topic. This is an insane topic. But it's an important one, and we're going to talk about it here. If you would like to read this article, head on over to conservativenerds.locals.com. All this, along with all the other whistleblower topics that we've covered exclusively at the Lunduk Journal over the last several weeks, you can find over there. That's where I keep all of the very politically charged articles, because I try to keep lunduk.locals.com a politics-free place. And then conservativenerds.locals.com is all the topics that impact tech and computers and everything else that's just a bit too politically charged. That all goes over there. So go over there if you want to read the whole article. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. I'm going to read it all to you today because we need to go through this in depth. Bear with me. This is a very, very difficult one, honestly, to get through because it's kind of just disgusting. But here we go. This includes guides for Microsoft employees of trans children, corporate support groups to encourage transitioning of children, and mandatory health insurance add-ons which cover transgender treatment and services for family members, including children. This comes from a 2019 report commissioned by Microsoft entitled Gender Identity and the Dynamic Workforce, Creating an Inclusive Workplace. Oh, man. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to. I can do this. I can keep going on this. This report was written by WFD Consulting and paid for by Microsoft specifically for Microsoft's internal use. Now, I should point out, while this was paid for specifically for internal use by Microsoft, it was for a period of time publicly available, but you'd be hard pressed to find it anywhere. WFD Consulting appears to have disappeared, and for a period of time, they offered this particular report for sale to other companies. I don't know how many companies took them up on it because, again, WFD Consulting just, like, their website's just gone. But during one conference that Microsoft had, they did link to this report for a short period of time. So it was technically publicly available, but just nobody noticed it. It was gone. And then it's no longer publicly available after that. But it is still available internally. And Microsoft wanted it that way. So according to WFD Consulting, luckily the archive.org version of their website is still up so we can get this information. The quote, Microsoft sponsored this study to better understand and address the needs of employees who identify as transgender and gender non-binary. They commissioned WFD Consulting to examine the experiences of workers in a variety of industries and provide actionable recommendations that would be useful to all types of organizations. This report was not released freely to the public, other than during a very, very short window, and everyone just missed it, but was made available to Microsoft employees and management. While there are several concerning sections of this 96-page report, let's jump to Chapter 6, which specifically deals with providing gender-affirming care to children and encouraging Microsoft employees to pursue that avenue with their children. Holy heavens. Okay. So Chapter 6, this section, focused entirely on transitioning children, is roughly 15 pages long and consists of a combination of quotes from employees along with recommendations, including this story of a 3-year-old girl whose parents transitioned her into a boy. Quote, parents of children assigned female at birth. When he was about 3 years old, he would get super serious and sad. Sometimes at night he asked, "Why did God make me a girl when I'm a boy?" We had no idea how to respond. At around 4 years old, he started asserting his preferences. He didn't want to wear dresses or bows. He was always the boy character during play. He would play with male Barbies. When we went clothes shopping in the girls' department, he would say, "I want to shop in my section." Preschool was miserable. He was sad all the time. He was so despondent he wouldn't play with the other kids. When he was old enough to choose clothes or toys, it was clear he was a tomboy. He would peer longingly at bold masculine clothes and ask why he could not wear them. I was worried he would get ostracized, bullied, or shunned for wearing boys' clothes. We went instead for simple female clothing without any frills or pink. Um, it's, it's 3 years old. Just to be clear, this report includes stories about children ranging from 3 years old up to their teen years. There are stories for young adults as well, but I'd like to focus on the kids side of things. Um, the fact that toddlers were included in this is absolutely disgusting. It's horrifying. And according to the source, talking to the London Journal, quote, this report was trumpeted and celebrated by many within Microsoft. And as this report goes on, it gets into specific recommendations and advice for Microsoft employees on how to assist their children in transitioning their gender. I'm not going to read all of this. I've provided a huge number of screenshots over on the article if you want to read all of it. But I want to just touch on a couple of key points here because I think this is really important. In this section, they want to create a sense of urgency. Right, they're talking about after realization or disclosure, the journey begins with a search for information. Where is this here? And they continue on with a set with yeah, right. Hold on a second. Where am I at here? So a sense of urgency was applied. Microsoft employees were warned that they must make decisions about gender affirming care quickly, as there is a ticking clock for puberty blockers, which because they weren't just encouraging the parents to be supportive of a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old who wanted to change their gender, I guess. They were also impressing upon parents, and they do this multiple times throughout this report, that there's a ticking clock. Like you have to act fast, right? To almost cause people to make a rash decision. And when parents started investigating the gender affirming therapies, they quickly discovered, this is from the report, that there is a ticking clock for puberty blockers, which arrest development of the secondary sex characteristics of a child's sex assigned at birth. See, that to me, that's just insidious. That's insidious. I mean, they're using an aggressive marketing tactic to force a sale. And in this case, what they're selling is convincing the parents to change the gender of their children, to get rid of, to basically chemically castrate or sterilize their children. This report also included several recommendations for Microsoft management, including the establishment of groups and official corporate communications channels for parents of transgender and non-binary children, the employee resource groups and business research groups, dedicated communications channels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The official recommendation was that companies create this. Microsoft did just that. It was also recommended that groups for young transgender kids under 13 years old be created. And again, these were groups not for parents, but for kids, that companies needed to work with communities to create little tiny kids groups for little kids to get together and talk about each other's genitals. It's just so messed up. I can't. It's so messed up. So, and specifically, they were using an example of, and I'm going to read this here a little bit because it's just really, really messed up. I started a group for young transgender kids because there was nothing in our area to support kids under 13. I was able to reach out and meet parents in the community. We're a private Facebook group and we meet occasionally. We have 200 parents now. And we are growing. We have play groups for the kids. It changed things in a big way to know I'm not the only one. Facebook, under 13 years old, talking about genitals. If you were to create a list of the biggest red flags possible, those three things would be on it. Oh my word. Under 13, little kids, Facebook talking about their private parts and then changing them. Just intensely perverted. One of the recommendations which Microsoft acted upon was to remove age restrictions for gender-affirming treatments for children under 16. Quote, and this is a specific recommendation, and Microsoft acted on it. Remove age restrictions for gender-affirming treatments for children under 18, allowing clinicians to determine the appropriate age for treatment in consultation with parents. So the idea is to remove age restrictions for sex change operations, right? That's the whole thing. So then Microsoft, what did they do? They acted on that. Microsoft implemented a company-wide mandatory supplemental health insurance plan, which covered gender-affirming care for little kids, small children, little kids. And this applied to your whole family, but also for your little kids. This is called the Health Plus plan. This actually is all public. I linked to some of this over in the article. Again, conservativenerds.locals.com. This is public information here. You can just go ahead and grab this. The Health Plus plan is, I'll just read from the article because my brain is melting down about this. According to one source within Microsoft, this report was used, quote, to justify the addition of a new supplemental health insurance plan, which employees, quote, were not given the option to opt out of. So employees ended up having to pay, because it was for everybody, right? Ended up having to pay for something that they didn't want, and that was doing something that was this horrific. Now, what specifically did this non-optional plan cover? Well, things like hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and various sex change surgeries and medications, most of which were made available to small children. There were age requirements. If you go to their website, and I've screenshotted some of the details here, they have a section on their website, and I linked to some of it, and you can find more just by doing a quick Bing search, and they have a PDF that covers all of their care. There's a section called Transgender Treatment and Services for Gender Dysphoria. And they show the coverage, and they show all the things that you can do. Feminizing medications, anti-androgen medications, masculinizing medications, hormone therapy, and ongoing care. And then a whole lot of like plastic surgery and various things. Some of these you had to be 18 plus in order to get. Most of them, a large portion of them, you could get as a little tiny kids. So, what do we learn from this? So we just got a bunch of information leaked to us from a whistleblower who I would like to thank profusely. But what do we learn from it? Well, number one, we learned that Microsoft paid for reports which encouraged employees to transition their children. That's pretty intense. And to go along with it, we learned that many within the company were very, very excited about it. Number two, the idea of children as young as 3 years old being transitioned was presented to Microsoft employees as a good thing, something to aspire to, a positive, a noble goal. Oh, my word. Number three, support groups. Using the company resources were, according to the report, to be created for transitioning children. At least some of that did take place. And number four, Microsoft added a non-optional health plan, which specifically covered gender-affirming care for toddlers. Last month, we covered a huge number of leaks from Red Hat and IBM. Those were much easier to talk about because those were adults talking about very racist things, right? The leaks that we saw last month from IBM, we literally saw a presentation from Red Hat on Red Hat letterhead and sanctioned by Red Hat and supported by Red Hat, saying that white people are evil and should feel ashamed at how white they are, right? Racist, horrible, just mean. But it's adults being racist and mean. We can talk about that, we can laugh at that, we can be angry at that, we can act upon that. There's a lot of feelings we can have around that. But this is a huge mega corporation pushing to destroy little children in so many grotesque ways. It's horrific. What Microsoft is doing here is unforgivable. It is horrific. We've got massive numbers of leaks coming in from Microsoft over the coming weeks. None of them are as horrific as this. All the leaks coming in from Microsoft are bad. All of them make Microsoft look awful. Some of them downright evil. But nothing like this. There is no justification on planet Earth or in the heavens above for doing this to toddlers. It's the very epitome of pure evil. And it's not going to be stood for. So again, the article's up over on conservativenerds.locals.com. Go check it out. I provided a large number of screenshots to go along with it. The 96-page report that this comes from, I'm going to be publishing a large amount of that in the days ahead. So you'll be able to read complete sections and decide for yourself what you feel about all of it. All of this is very, very legit, it backed up every which way from Sunday. In fact, if you do a number of searches on a lot of the things that I provide here, you can easily verify some of this information as well. I don't expect Microsoft to reply to this. I've asked Microsoft for a response. I've emailed them. I've emailed several people within the company. I've even tagged them on Twitter. I won't get a response. We won't. But we're going to keep talking about it. Next week, starting Monday, we've got some more leaks that will be published from Microsoft. And I guarantee you this. I guarantee you there's going to be some meetings at Microsoft internally. And some people are going to be very, very angry at the Lunduk Journal. But they can't stop us because we're big tech impervious. We're hosted entirely over on Rumble and Locals by a company who has our back. So I want to say thank you to Rumble and Locals for doing that, for allowing us to publish that information. And you know what? Thank you to Twitter, because I don't think Twitter is going to censor us on this one either. Well, most people don't follow me on Twitter or read any of this stuff on Twitter. It's nice that we have an extra avenue there for publishing this information, getting it out there publicly. But I'm going to continue publishing all of these leaks. And I want to say thank you to all of the subscribers who make it so we are not reliant on advertising or corporate sponsorships of any kind in order to get this work done. Because there are not, despite the fact that this is between this and the Red Hat and IBM leaks, the Lunduk Journal has over the last few weeks published what is undeniably the biggest stories in the tech world in the last 5 years, 10 years. No one else is covering it. What's really fascinating is when you look at the tech publications that are not covering these topics, that are not covering what Microsoft is doing, what Red Hat is doing, what IBM is doing, when they're not covering these, and you look at who advertises on their publication, on their website, for their platforms, you start to realize that very quickly, if they speak out on these topics, they go out of business. Like that. They're gone. But because of you, because we do the sponsor, not the sponsor, but the subscriber thing here, we don't have to worry about that. It's pretty amazing. And I know that the word is getting out. Some of the stuff I've talked about has been viewed millions and millions of times across Twitter and LinkedIn and everywhere else. So I know the public wants this information. I know the word is getting out, and we're the only game in town touching it. And we are nowhere near done. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who helps make that possible. If you haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe. Even if just to get the free subscription so you get alerted, like go to conservativenerds.locals.com and get a free subscription. That way, on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of this next week, when more leaks from Microsoft get published, you'll get alerted to them. Because most of those are going to be published free for the public, because this is important information that needs to get out there. But if you want to support us, please feel free. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode. Thank you.